Testing 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, thank you. I can hear you. Hey, Fred, can you come off your mute and go ahead and say something?
You want me to mute or unmute?
There you go. I just wanted to make sure that they were getting you over the audio. Okay, go ahead and mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Jack, we can hear you.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Nevada Board of Wildlife Commissioners on Friday, September 23rd, 2022.
This meeting is being recorded.
All right, with that, I'm going to ask Commissioner McNinch to lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll ask the department to do the roll.
Chairman Caviglia.
Here.
Vice Chairman Rogers.
Here.
Chairman Wise, sorry, Commissioner Wise. Here. Commissioner McNinch. Here. Commissioner East. Here. Commissioner Barnes.
Here.
Commissioner Keel. Commissioner Walther. Here. Commissioner Perini.
Thank you, and we want to welcome. Yeah, that's the word. We want to welcome Commissioner Walther to the commission. With that, we'll ask the county advisory boards in attendance to please announce themselves.
I'm it.
Paul Dixon, Paul.
Joe Green person.
Okay, with that, we'll go to agenda item 2, approval of the agenda for possible action. The commission will review the agenda and may take action to approve the agenda. The commission may remove items from the agenda, continue items for consideration, or take items out of order. We do plan to take an item out of order tomorrow, but I don't have any other changes for today unless anybody else does. Okay, we'll go out for public comment on the agenda. Okay, no public comment, we'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner McNinch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner McNinch, a second by Vice Chair Rogers. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item number 3, approval of minutes for possible action. Commission minutes may be approved from the August 19th and 20th, 2022 meeting. Does anybody have any comments, or Commissioner East?
Thank you. I'm trying to find my note. It was in one of our public comment sections. Gosh darn it, I had it open and then I closed it. Here it is, on page 13, and it's Rex Flowers' comment, and I believe that the last sentence there is maybe misstated. So I'd ask that it reads, he stated that he would hope that NDOW held their employees to the same standard or higher than the public, and believe the commission should regulate the general public's postings and hope to have some of the posts he saw get deleted. And I think that's misstated. I think if we could delete or strike the "and believed" through deleted, I think that would be preferable for me. I just spoke with Mr. Flowers, and he said was not the intent of his comment, so I think it was maybe misrepresented in the minutes. And that was all I had. otherwise I thought they looked really nice. Thanks.
Commissioner McNinch?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a couple of quick things. So on page 9, the first full paragraph that starts with the State Wildlife Action Plan, the second sentence in that, common threats include, and then some of these threats include, so just a little cleanup there to keep the record clarified. I'm not sure which verbiage was intended, but, and then on page 18, under item H, at the very end there, the motion, Commissioner McNinch made a motion to adopt Commission Policy 27, protection instead of protect. That was the name of the policy, protection of wildlife. And that's all that I had.
I don't see anyone else. We'll take it out for public comment and approval of the minutes. Any public comment on Zoom? All right, with that, we'll bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chair, I'll approve the minutes with the noted changes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by former Chairwoman East, and second by Commissioner Barnes to approve the minutes with the noted changes. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, agenda item number 4, member items, announcements, and correspondence, informational. Commissioners may present emergent items. No action may be taken by the commission. Any item requiring commission action may be scheduled on a future commission agenda. The commission will review and may discuss correspondence sent or received by the commission since the last regular meeting and may provide copies for the exhibit file. Commissioners may provide hard copies of their correspondence for the written record. Correspondence sent or received by Secretary Wasley may also be discussed. And I guess the only correspondence I had with the public was regarding an agenda item tomorrow. I didn't have anything beyond that. I see nothing else from the commission. Director Wasley.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't have any correspondence, but I did maybe want to make a little bit of an announcement, and really it's more of a public apology to this board pertaining to the support services and support functions of the agency. And I guess on the bright side for Commissioner Walters, it's all up from here. But I know that over the course of the past couple years, there's been some challenges in coordinating things like lodging, transportation, support material that have come up on a fairly regular basis. And I think some of the challenges that were experienced last night with some challenging circumstances where some of you didn't have reservations, others did, but had some pretty loud thumping music until the early hours of the morning. Some of you didn't have transportation, went and rented vehicles. It's the department's role to support this body as this body provides guidance to the agency in development of our policies and our priorities. And clearly we failed. We failed as a department to meet that duty of support to this body. And so I want to publicly apologize to each and every one of you. And I also want you to know that we'll be having this discussion as a leadership team on Monday morning and commit to doing better. And if it makes it any easier, we are at the same hotel that some of you are. And so we wouldn't do that to ourselves, do it to you and not do it to ourselves. So just know that I apologize and commit to do better, and there are no excuses. So I'm sorry.
Thank you, Tony. With that, we'll go to agenda item number 5, County Advisory Boards to Manage Wildlife. Member items, informational. CAB members may present emergent items. No action may be taken by the commission. Any item requiring commission action will be scheduled on a future commission agenda. Any cab items in Las Vegas? I see him shaking his head. Any cab items on Zoom?
No.
Okay. With that, we'll close agenda item number 5. We'll go to agenda item number 6, reports informational. Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies 2022 Annual Meeting Update, Secretary Wasley. A report from the 2022 conference will be provided.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is considerably more positive than my previous comments. So I returned from Dallas-Fort Worth yesterday, where I was accompanied by numerous staff of our agency and attending the 112th annual meeting for the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies. That meeting also concluded my one-year term as president of that body. So now I'm formally sit in the role of past president, which is a significantly lower commitment and obligation. The theme of that conference was One Health. The discussions in the plenary session, the speakers all focused on a One Health paradigm. One Health is the idea of a cross-sector approach, animal health, human health, and ecosystem health. There were speakers from each of those areas of animal health, human health, ecosystem health, and there was a white paper produced by Shane Mahoney of Conservation Visions. The association contracted Mr. Mahoney to develop a paper that would really look at the history and kind of develop the intellectual underpinnings of a One Health approach. We talked with Mr. Mahoney about a 15 to 20 page paper, and the final product was just short of 60 pages. It was a significant undertaking, and it created a significant buzz throughout the conference and spilled into many related areas, including Recovering America's Wildlife Act, a whole host of areas, relevancy, diversity, equity, inclusivity. It was really empowering, energizing. When we think about pathogens, emerging pathogens, presently 75% of all emerging pathogens are from animals at this point, zoonotic in nature. So whether it's monkeypox or COVID or highly pathogenic avian influenza, Ebola, 75% of new pathogens come from animals. 60% of those come from wildlife. So the interaction between human and animals is significantly altered by the condition of those habitats. So the One Health concept is, although not new, it is somewhat coming full circle to better integrate those areas. So that was a consistent theme throughout the conference. I'm going to hit on several unrelated areas that were also key to the conference. Habitat Division Administrator Alan Janae and I attended a meeting relative to wild horses and burros. That meeting was convened through the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership. The Chief Conservation Officer brought together a group that included the CEO, the President of the Wildlife Society, Wild Sheep Foundation, President of the Mule Deer Foundation, the President of the Boone and Crockett Club, government affairs coordinators from Pheasants Forever, Quail Forever, National Wildlife Federation, and backcountry hunters and anglers. We discussed federal appropriation. We discussed how that appropriation is shared amongst states. We talked about the urgency of this issue and the need for a national awareness campaign to better address unprecedented impacts to the rangelands, particularly in Nevada, recognizing Nevada is really the epicenter of this issue. It was clearly stated this is not an issue about horses versus livestock versus mule deer. This is about ecological integrity and crossing ecological thresholds that we may never be able to recover from. There was also a Sagebrush Executive Oversight Committee meeting for several hours with updates from the Bureau of Land Management to discuss their planning effort, including possible development of sagebrush focal areas. We held a meeting with members from Bearwise, the Interagency Grizzly Bear Committee, and Wildlife Management Institute to talk about co-developed messages, product testing, community, not certification, but recognition as Bearwise, as well as products, ongoing coordination between Bearwise, IGBC, and WMI. Talked about, put together a advisory board on the E-stamp. The E-stamp is the federal duck stamp that is currently available but has a 45-day valid period. So if hunters early in the season purchase an E-stamp, that E-stamp privilege is only valid for a month and a half. The federal government is still required to fulfill that stamp and mail it, and the individual is still required to have that stamp. As the current federal language states, that stamp must be signed and affixed to a license. But because of the evolving electronic privileges, there are recommendations that have been made to and in collaboration with the Federal Migratory Bird Office in U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service under the Department of Interior. They support pursuing those language changes in the federal language. A contingent of Western states directors had a meeting with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to talk about coordination pertaining to a whole host of issues from sage grouse to grizzly bears to threatened and endangered species. We also, I had a personal conversation with the director of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to discuss the hunt fish rule, particularly as it relates to non-lead tackle and non-lead ammo within the National Wildlife Refuge System. And we will be coordinating, the states will have representation, and we will work together with the federal government prior to the proposal of lead restrictions. There were significant efforts and discussions regarding diversity, equity, and inclusivity. Ongoing updates on Recovering America's Wildlife Act throughout the conference as things changed multiple times per day. We are exceptionally close to passage. There are potentially 12 to 13 Republicans on the Senate side. The goal was 10 prior to bringing it to a vote. The vehicle for introduction on the Senate floor or passage on the Senate floor is most likely a continuing resolution. However, there remains a challenge in that some in the Senate want a very clean CR, which could potentially prohibit the addition of Recovering America's Wildlife Act to that. So those discussions are occurring and changing almost hourly. There's ongoing discussion regarding the pay for as well, and if anybody has questions on any of these items, I'm happy to try to answer them either here or after on a one-on-one basis if you want to do a little deeper dive on some of this. One item of particular relevance to commissions and boards. You all have received a copy of a commission guidebook upon your original appointment. That commission guidebook was a guidebook that was assembled by the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies originally in 1996. It was revised about 10 years after that, but it had not been updated for the last 15, 16 years. So the association put out an RFP for an update of that commission guidebook. Wildlife Management Institute just released the revised copy of that guidebook. It now includes sections in terms of best management practices for virtual meetings, public comment through virtual meetings. It's much more of a living document that can be edited on an as-needed basis. It will also be accompanied by a recorded webinar so that new commissioners throughout the country trying to come up to speed quickly to public trust responsibilities, roles and responsibilities as a commissioner can be more quickly obtained. Independent but related is a Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation survey and a summary report that looked at, and some of you may have been contacted by Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation. They reached out to state agencies and commissions around the country to better understand the process by which commissioners were appointed, the term, areas of representation, and they also looked at the size of commissions. They looked at the number of meetings, and so just in a nutshell, I think at this point over half states are included in some of the preliminary results. The smallest commission, I believe, is 4 members. The largest is I think 15 or 16 members. The average number of meetings per year is 8.3. One item of interest in that preliminary report is that over a third, or roughly a third, of the states have a legislatively initiated effort to change the makeup of their commissions somehow, whether it's the number of commissioners or the areas that they represent. But once that report is final and released, we'll make sure that this body receives that, and we will certainly share that updated commission guidebook as well. We heard some very interesting reports on some national campaigns, one from the National Wild Turkey Federation called Hunt for Good, and it was a lot about social media. It was about positive marketing, portrayal of the positive aspects of conservation, what's being done, kind of a more I guess positive effect of social media rather than what we so often see. Another campaign that was launched and about ready to hit the streets in prime time prior to the pandemic, called Making It Last, and it was about species and conservation and ensuring that species and systems last for the long haul. I know that's a lot, but there was a whole lot more than just that. I thought those were some high-level items that might be of particular interest to you all, and happy to share copies of agendas or do a deeper dive on any of those items should there be any interest. But that concludes my AFWA report, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Wasley. Anybody have any questions? See Tiffany, then Commissioner McNinch.
Always. Just a couple of things. Would you be willing to share the white paper with us on the One Health?
Absolutely. That's
Okay.
a great question. Yeah, that we'll add that to the list,
Okay.
and that'll be consistent with that white paper. The executive committee passed a resolution. Well, the full body did at the business meeting, a resolution for the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies to lean in and adopt a One Health approach to conservation and work with our partners in more of a cross-sector approach. So I'll share both the resolution as well as that white paper. The white paper was written specifically to cover two things, kind of the history and then specific to AFWA, specific to how AFWA as an association. So it's not prescriptive to what Nevada might do versus Missouri, but it is how AFWA, it's making some recommendations to the association. No obligations or prescriptive direction to Nevada per se, but I'll share that along with that resolution. I think that's a great idea.
That would be great. And one other thing, with the RAWA, is there anything that we as individuals or the commission can do to help further that legislation?
I think at this point, reaching out to members of our delegation to continue to stress the importance. There's, at this point, two vehicles, one being the CR before the election, the other being perhaps as part of a omnibus in the lame duck, and the former is the preferred option. So anything that we can do to encourage members of our delegation, and it's uncertain at this point if it was through a continuing resolution, if that would go to the House or the Senate first. don't understand the strategy there as far as which would be better or how, but yeah, we can work with the commission, but any encouragement individually or collectively towards members of our delegation stressing the importance to Nevada and Nevada citizens would be timely.
Okay, thanks. I'll be in touch with you about that so that I can do my part. Thanks.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to thank Tony for your time and your energy that you put into AFWA, your leadership. And I can't tell you how many people have come up to me the last couple of WAFWA meetings, the winter and the summer, NGO, representatives of NGOs, commissioners from other states, directors, the executive director of AFWA, and complimented me on, told me about how much they appreciated Tony's representation of all things wildlife and all the initiatives, and how that you were moving the needle, and basically making these conversations, making us relevant, all of us. And it happened every day, several times a day. And I know I've mentioned it to you once or twice, but you'd be surprised at how many people approached me to take the time to share their appreciation about the work you were doing. I hope they did the same to you. And so I just wanted to share that, and thank you for your time and your leadership on all those issues. And we know how difficult an issue like the wild horse and burro is. Tony talked about a dozen others, and I can tell you that it's just the tip of the iceberg, and they're all at least as complicated and as involved as the wild horses. So you've been busy, and just really appreciate all the work that you've done. You've represented Nevada very well, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner McNitch.
Any additional questions? All right. Not seeing any, we will go to agenda item 6B, Department Activity Report, Secretary Wasley and Division Administrators. A report will be provided on the Nevada Department of Wildlife activities.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will kick this off reading the report from the Director's Office, and then we'll segue to division by division. So the Director's Office has recently been through some personnel changes. Our Deputy Director of Administrative Services, Bonnie Long, recently left state service after her husband received a great opportunity down here in Southern Nevada. She left us better than she found us. Not that we were in a state of despair, but she certainly found some areas to improve in our administrative services in the fiscal arena, and we'll miss her greatly. Additionally, our executive assistant, Missy Stanford, has taken advantage of a promotional opportunity closer to home in Carson City. So she too left the same day that Bonnie did. And Missy started with the Department of Public Safety earlier this week and will be missed as well. We look forward to welcoming our Administrative Services Officer 3, our ASO 3, Jordan Goshert, as the new Deputy Director. Many of you will be familiar with Jordan, as she previously held the positions of AA3 and Legislative Liaison in the Director's Office before moving into Fiscal as the Grant Manager and eventually the ASO 3. So she has extensive training and knowledge in managing our department's complex budgets and federal grants and legislative work. Jordan continues to work on developing positive relationships with the Wildlife and Sportfish Restoration Program, as well as the Governor's Office staff. Megan Byer will be assuming the responsibilities of the Executive Assistant, Missy's former role, and is looking forward to working more closely with the Commission. As I stated earlier, officially completed my tenure as president of the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies at the conclusion of this week's conference in Dallas. And the last month of this presidency was full of relevancy work, sage grouse, task force meetings, and landscape conservation discussions. Also wanted to provide an update on the Cooperative Research Unit. I don't know if that's included in the Habitat Division update. I don't see it there, so I'm going to add that to the Director's Office update. So as we've presented to this body before, Nevada is getting one of two new cooperative research units in the nation, the other being in Michigan. There is currently a hiring process underway. There's been interviews and preliminary selection of a candidate for the unit lead. The Cooperative Research Unit is a USGS. It's housed at the University of Nevada, sponsored by many partners, including U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Wildlife Management Institute, Nevada Department of Wildlife, the university. It's primarily a USGS function. This Cooperative Research Unit will ultimately contain 3 faculty positions at the University of Nevada. There is a position geared towards landscape conservation, one towards aquatic interests, and a third specific to human dimensions. So the first step is to hire the unit leader, which is currently underway, and then the other 2 positions will be hired. So it's all green light and gas pedal with the hiring and standing that up sooner than later. That concludes the report from the director's office, and next is the game division.
I guess I'll go to the one for the vertically challenged to start. So, Chairman Cavilla, members of the commission, Joe Bennett, Southern Region Game Supervisor. I think it's appropriate, since we are down south, to start with some aerial bighorn sheep survey data. So Game Division staff conducted desert bighorn sheep aerial surveys in units 045, 162, 163, 173 South, 195, 212, 213, 252, 280, 281, 282. So monsoonal precipitation receipts have improved range conditions, allowing sheep to move off water sources, altering summer distribution. One important note is poor lamb recruitment was observed through much of central Nevada, and improved recruitment was observed in the Desert National Wildlife Refuge. Sample sizes in central Nevada were depressed compared to previous years, in part due to improved range conditions. Overall, 845 sheep were classified as 263 rams, 447 ewes, and 135 lambs, yielding a lamb ratio of 30 lambs per 100 ewes. One important note is that Area 19 had a record sample of 127 while on survey, and sheep surveys in southern Nevada will continue through early October. Next, aerial California bighorn sheep surveys. So Game Division staff conducted California bighorn sheep aerial surveys in units 011, 012, 013, 014, 022, 032, 033, 035, and 051. Overall, 708 California bighorn sheep were classified as 209 rams, 355 ewes, and 144 lambs, yielding a lamb ratio of 40 lambs per 100 ewes. Next, our staff has been dealing with a lot of urban wildlife conflicts, so several of the Western Region personnel have been busy responding to bear issues. To date, there's been twice the number of bears hit by cars this year compared to last year, which was 17. Both bear indoctrinations have been completed, with the hunts beginning September 15th, so they've already began. 2 trailers have been ordered for the family bear trap, which is being sectioned into 2 separate traps. In addition, Southern Region Game Division assisted law enforcement and conservation education in successfully tranquilizing a 2-year-old female lion in northwest Las Vegas. The lion was in poor body condition, which is expected for a young dispersing lion. As many of you know, our California bighorn and mountain goat hunt started on September 1st. So we began checking in bighorn sheep and mountain goats. Also interesting, the desert bighorn sheep silver state tag holder harvested an 11-year-old one-horn ram from Unit 244. And I just got word that one of the heritage desert bighorn sheep tag holders was successful last night. So I get to go check in a bighorn sheep once we're done here. Next, Bighorn Seminars. So 3 Bighorn Seminars were conducted in August. 2 were in person, 1 in Las Vegas and 1 in Reno, and 1 virtually. Overall, there was great participation, with over 75 people attending the Reno seminar, 21 in Las Vegas, and approximately 95 turning into the virtual seminar. So overall, we reached out to about 2/3 of the tag holders, even without it being required. And then also, in addition, the Game Division staff is working with Con Ed and Habitat on a pilot bighorn monitoring project to sign up as many people as possible to become volunteers while they're scouting to report guzzler levels, lamb recruitment, clinical signs of bacterial pneumonia, so we can leverage all those volunteer hours. So from our migratory bird and fur bearer staff, NDOW and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service employees continue cooperative efforts for duck banding at Stillwater National Wildlife Refuge. Banding has also occurred at several management areas, including Mason Valley, Steptoe, Kirch, Key Pittman, and Overton. The commission voted to reinstate a draw system for swan permits for the 2022 season. Applications for permits exceeded available permits for the first time since 1986. And then, lastly, staff attended Pacific Flyway meetings to set waterfowl frameworks for the 2023-2024 season. No significant regulatory changes occurred. However,
lakes that don't sustain natural reproduction.